Hey, what's going on, guys? Another knife review for you today. Today we're looking at a couple of Schrade rescue tools. There's two models here. The red one is the SCHA911R, R standing for red, and the black one, SCHA911B, B for black. Now these are identical knives. They both have aluminum handles in here, but there is a plastic or synthetic overlay. Okay, this one has a black one, this one has a red one. That's the only thing that's different in these models. Now, being that these are rescue, tools, emergency type tools, I like the red one by far over the black one. Having an all black knife or tool is very cool, very stealthy. Yet, when you're talking about emergency situations, you want to kind of stay away from stealth and you want to really go towards like big, bold colors. I believe red is the only other color they have right now at this moment. I love to see yellow. I love to see blaze orange. My interior in my car is black, and I got these specifically to leave one in my vehicle. I want to stand out, so it's going to be the red one. Now, for testing purposes, I used the heck out of the black one. Didn't use the red one because I want to keep this nice and pristine, and the serrations on here nice and sharp and so forth, which we'll talk about in a little bit later. But I did want to point out that I like the colored ones for all type of utility, rescue slash vehicle type tools. Emergency tools, you definitely want some color. A pop of color is a good thing. Okay, God forbid I ever get into an accident, I don't want to fumble around my black car looking for my black rescue tool. You know what I mean? So anyway, for all intent purposes, these are assisted opening, liner locking, folding knives. Okay, yet they have a very specific blade profile here, which has a couple different rescue type tools. And what's really cool about these specifically, and why I like these more than any other rescue tool that I've had in this type package, is this is the best window slash glass punch that I've ever seen. This best system in this thing, which I'm going to talk about in this review a little bit later. But anyway, let's get some specs out of the way. It is assisted opening. Okay, as you guys can see there's a little flipper on the back. It's very aggressively checkered. Jimping on there is very good. You can't miss it. As soon as your finger lands on it, it wants to grip. Shoots out very fast if you guys aren't familiar. Okay, as you start pushing down on that, a spring is going to catch and it's going to open that blade automatically for you. Okay, although it is legal where lots of automatics are not legal. It is a liner lock. The lockup is fantastic on this. No blade play in any direction. However, when I did a bunch of testing on the black one, I did use the tip for some prying, and that did create a little bit of side to side. Okay, did not yet play around with this, but it is an adjustable pivot. You can't tell from the front because it has the flat side, but if I zoom in underneath our pocket clip, you can see there is your pivot screw. Okay, it takes a Torx wrench for that. So I will go ahead and tighten that up and take the blade play out of it, but there's no up and down. Okay, that's the most important thing. You could take a little bit of the slop out left and right, but once you get up and down play, nothing you can do. So, as far as some specs on these are definitely bigger than I was expecting. And it doesn't matter how many times you look at a picture or a video, or especially if you're reading stats, like if I'm looking for knives to check out, things I want to try out and test myself, I'll look at the specifics, the length, the weight, all that kind of stuff. But I have to say, even with the hundreds and thousands of knives that I've had, maybe not hundreds of thousands, but at least thousands, occasionally I'm still surprised. Even though I knew the exact dimension of this before getting it, it was bigger than I thought it would be. Okay, in the closed position here, 4.8 inches. All right, the blade is 3.8 inches. It's an AUS 8. Something very, very special about these serrations, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But the overall length here is 8.6 inches. Okay, it's also hefty at 8 ounces. Now the blade has a couple different features on it. Obviously, we have a nice run of very large scallop serrations. Okay, on the front here, there's also a gut hook. Okay, which could be used for, you can consider it a gut hook or a seatbelt cutter, however you want to look at that particular type tool, but there's a little bit of a strap cutter right there. And then the front is split for a prying tool slash flathead screwdriver. Now, something to note here is it's a very fine grind on here. I did try the black one for unscrewing some flatheads. I don't recommend it if it's not the proper size, specifically with flatheads and Phillip head screws. If you have a wider channel in the screw head than you do have your screwdriver, you can damage the screw and or strip it out. Okay, so basically it's a very thin grind towards the front. I would only recommend using this as a flathead screwdriver if you're using very fine slit screw heads. Okay, now getting back to these serrations. This is hollow ground, but what's really special about these is the fact that they're V ground. Okay, that's pretty big. As most of us know, when you see serration patterns, they're almost always chisel ground, meaning that it's ground on one side, the other side's flat. This is particularly extra sharp because of this V-grind. Okay, very, very nice. Again, these are pristine. Didn't use this one because I want to save this as an emergency tool in my vehicle, but the black one I did use. And I was very impressed with how sharp these come out of the box, especially with that V-grind. Super nice. One negative I found, okay, and this is the advantage of trying multiple different samples, is that if you look at our Schrade cutter slash rope cutter slash, gut hook slash seatbelt, strap cutter, the grind on the red one is shallower than the black one. Okay, we're looking right in here, all right, right in there at that portion on both of these knives. All right, I'll try and get this. Actually, you know what? Let me do this. Let me zoom in. It'll be a little bit easier to see the difference. There we go. Much easier, so I can hold it still. You can see that the grind on this one is a lot shallower. There's a lot more silver, let's just say, quote, silver exposed, or metal exposed underneath that coating, as opposed to this one. This one is a steeper grind. Okay, it's not cool that it's inconsistent. They both are very sharp, okay? Because this is so much narrower, I did want to just check it out real quick. They both cut 550 cord beautifully. I did test the black one with a seatbelt. Little bit of a struggle, not super sharp, but sharp enough to have cut through it. If there was more pressure, like it's hard because if you're cutting a seatbelt off of someone in an emergency situation, there's a lot of pressure that's built up and it's easier to cut. When I'm purposely trying to cut seatbelt for testing, it's loose. It's not as taut as I would like. So a little bit of a struggle on the black one, but it's still sharp enough to cut through it. I just didn't like the fact that they're a little inconsistent. You know what I mean? You want to see more consistency on a production knife. But besides that, super cool. Yeah, the blade, I mean, it's just the black one, like I said, the one I've been testing with it, it's been fine. As far as prying, it actually pries fairly well. It took pretty good abuse doing some pry work. Also, I was pulling staples out of a wooden crate. So, you could be a little bit more rougher and tougher with stuff like this. If you're going to be using this for a dedicated rescue tool for your vehicle, don't be using the blade to test it around and then put it away dull, okay? The one thing people are going to say is, how the hell am I supposed to sharpen that? You can sharpen it, but honestly, you're not going to get it as sharp as when they're brand new. Something like this, in my opinion, is a dedicated, vehicle tool. That's really what it's for. It's not for everyday carry. It's not something you're to constantly use and then hope it stays sharp or hope you can sharpen it properly. This is a blade that I wouldn't recommend using. I would recommend saving it for those emergency situations. That's why we have multiple knives, other knives to use, and this specific type tool to save. All right, but yeah, if you really need to sharpen it, you could use a tapered stone to sharpen that. You can even use a very fine dowel and wrap some fine sandpaper around it, like some auto paper. All right, maybe I'll do a video in the future of sharpening stuff like this. But I have to say, these scallop serrations are by far one of my favorite style of serrations, okay? I first saw this back when Kershaw was using it on a couple of their folders, a scallop type pattern, and it was huge. And obviously you can see there's lots of different companies doing that these days. I just really like it. It's actually a very functional serrated blade, extremely functional. As far as that assisted opening, like I said, very fast, very easy to use. But there are dual thumb studs on here, and I find that it takes even less pressure to pop it out with the thumb studs. I would recommend, if you get one of these, to definitely try the studs. It's just easier, and your grip is right there, okay? It is ambidextrous, so you, of course, do it with your left hand as well. Very easy. There is a pocket clip on these. Not a fan. Definitely not a fan. And there's one reason. You could see that because there's such a distance between the pocket clip and the frame here, and these are aluminum scales, if I didn't already mention that, it's a big gap, and you can see it lands on top of this scale. But let me zoom in here. There's also that plastic piece underneath the clip, okay? And this is to ensure that there's contact between the clip and the cloth. This creates a very, very tight fit, okay? Such a tight fit that if you were to carry this in your pocket like a standard pocket knife, I mean, it won't fall out, I can promise you that. But I was tugging and tugging and tugging, and I had to actually just use my nail to kind of lift up that clip off of that little piece. Because there's that shelf in there, it just creates an extremely, extremely tight pocket clip situation. All right, this again is something you're going to be clipping on maybe the inside of your vehicle, maybe the base of your seatbelt, the part that's not being, used every day, on the wall part of the vehicle. But other than that, I wouldn't recommend using this for the pocket. It's just extremely tight. Now, onto the coolest feature, in my opinion, of this knife. It is the glass punch, okay? We have a metal piece here, okay? It lifts up. This is under spring tension, so when you lift it up, it pops out. You can see there's another channel here, okay? So when you close this, this is now in the locked open position. So it'll be poking out the bottom. You can use this anytime you want to smash through glass, or God forbid, some kind of self-defense situation. If that's what you're looking, for this type of feature in, it'll be there as well, okay? It's basically going to be sticking out and locked down. What's nice is that, like right now, it's not going to flop open very easily, but it's a little bit looser. When you push it into the original setting here, there's a little bit of spring tension, okay? So it's definitely not going to flop open, all right, which is very nice. However, if you want to use this, okay, you cock it all the way back. There's another spot on the side here. Cock it all the way back and over. And now this is charged for an automatic glass punch. So you can put this right up against the glass and literally pull down like a trigger. And then it's a very, very powerful spring in there, okay? So basically you have the manual punch feature on here in this position, okay, or the spring punch, which is, like I said, super strong. Very, very cool function here. All right, so I have to say this is probably the coolest design for a glass punch that's integrated into a folder by far. I absolutely love it. Overall, I have a bunch of these different rescue tools. I already have my vehicle set up, and my parents and my friends and my family and everything else. And I'm usually not in the market for something like this, but I was looking through their 2015 catalog, Schrade's catalog, and they have another model which I really wasn't interested at all, because like I said, I'm not into these rescue tools because I already have them. You know what I mean? There's no real need for me to keep trying new ones all the time. However, for some reason, I kept going back to this one. I kept wanting to. I had interest in it, and then I'm like, nah, and then I went back to it, and I'm like, oh, maybe, and ultimately I did get it, and I have to say I'm extremely, extremely happy with it. It does come with a standard Schrade box, which I don't have anymore. I always throw the box out, but I did save the paperwork to show you. It explains the features here. Okay, you can pause your screen right there if you want to read their exact words on the functions. You can also pause it right there to see what they're referencing. So as I mentioned, this is a spring-assisted knife. There is a lock on the front here. You can see red is unlocked, okay, so that'll be able to spring open for you. You can lock it specifically because the pocket clip is orientated in a right side tip-down position. This flipper is resting against the seam of your pocket, so you might have a tendency to bump into it. Of course, you wouldn't want this to open in your pocket, so you can lock that, so this will not open. Literally just flip that down and you're good to go. Even though it's a liner lock, if you put this lock on, even by depressing the lock over, it will not allow the blade to close. Okay, you can hear there's a little bit of play when you do this, but it will not close because of the secondary lock. Okay, so it's nice if you're going to use this tool. It is very big and robust already, and a lot of people might not be super into the liner locks. They don't think they're very strong, but I can tell you I've never had one fail in this type of situation. But again, putting the lock on in addition to the liner lock, it's kind of like the CRKT stuff, the lock system. It's locking your lock. There is a very, very small chance that you're going to be putting so much pressure on the back of this spine that you would fail both of those locks. Okay, so I would recommend popping that on there once in use. Another thing I wanted to mention was the ergonomics on here. Okay, when I saw pictures of this, it did not look like it'd be very comfortable. Just kind of sharp angles here. It's very futuresque in my opinion. If you look at the finger twirl here, all right, you can see it's just, straight lines. They're very abrupt angles. It's not very curvaceous and organic at all. And usually knives like this tend to be a little more uncomfortable. I've had a couple models from Schrade in the past that were very similar to this that just weren't very comfortable in the hand. However, I was extremely surprised to find this was very, very comfortable. Even though it's beefy and chunky, it feels great in the hand. It gives you a lot to hold on to. Also, it's tapered. You can see it's fatter on the end here and it tapers towards the front. This aggressive jimping on the bottom does not hurt. I thought if I really squeezed down hard, it would, hurt my fingers here, but it doesn't. There's a little bit of a slope on the top here for your thumb. The jimping also very functional, not very aggressive, but not too smooth where it's not going to be doing anything. I just, overall, I was surprised. By looking at it, it does not look like it'd be comfortable, but it really is. And it gives you a lot to hold on to, especially, in situations where you're going to be using this for its intended purpose, gloves or no gloves. So pretty surprised and positively surprised by the ergos on this thing. So that's pretty much it with this one, guys. If you're in the market for a new rescue tool for your vehicles, it is super cool. I just really like this one a lot. I'm not usually a fan folding type rescue knives. I'd much prefer a fixed blade, especially with the punches and stuff like that. But I have to say, if you're going to get a folding type version, this is definitely the best I've seen thus far. It's super cool. Price on these right now are $50, I think. Actually, if you go directly to Schrade's site, they're charging like $85, but again, most people don't buy things direct. You could probably find these on Amazon for around the $45, $50 range, something like that. So there you go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you soon. Take care.